Well, it was worth the trip to Alberta for this convention. Just to know that if you need money from the Canadian conference, just ask Michael to write an email on your behalf. So that's what you need to do. Well, good evening. I bring greetings from your sister churches in Manitoba, where God is at work in the same way that He's at work here, and we are glad to be able to partner with you. It was really interesting to see that, actually I'm going to put my timer on so I'm not, that's, it was Mark who said that? I'm sure it was Mark. I was glad to see that your theme is so much alike the theme we had for our convention in Manitoba. Ours was called "Some Assembly Required," where we believe that God is God is moving among us, and He's building something among us, and we have to pay attention of what He's doing, how He's doing, and this whole idea how He's putting us together and shaping us into something. The theme verse for our convention in Manitoba was 1 Peter chapter 2, verses 4 to 6. And it says this, 4 and 5 I should say. It says, "As you come to Him, the living stone, rejected by men, but chosen by God and precious to Him, you also, like living stones, are being built into a spiritual house to be a holy priesthood, offering spiritual sacrifices acceptable to God through Jesus Christ." So God is building us into something. He is collecting us, and He begins to put us together to build us into something. And what Peter tells us is that we are being built into this living stone. We're being collected as living stones built into the spiritual house. So the idea is paying attention to what God is doing. What are some of the things that we have to allow God to do in order for us to be built in a way, His way instead of our ways? The first thing that becomes very clear to me in this passage is this whole invitation to come to Him. Peter begins by saying, look, do you want to be part of this spiritual house that is being built? Come to Him, Jesus. It begins there. This invitation to come to Him. Many times we begin elsewhere. We begin with our strategies. We begin with our idea of how we are going to have a form, a flow, and a function and we spend a lot of energy trying to think what we need to do. But if we allow God to build, the first step is not to think how, but it's only to come to Him. So we surrender back and we go, hey, we got to go to Him. Peter says He is the cornerstone. He is the one who puts everything into perspective, where the walls begin to be built from. So this idea is an interesting idea because it frees us from the process of just trying to figure out what's going to happen next. As we come to Him, He reveals Himself to us. As we come to Him, He begins to shape us in a way that is beneficial and the ways that He wants to do. The second thing that becomes very evident in this whole story, in this whole passage, is the idea that we are called to be stones and not architects. We are called to be stones and not architects. That is a very different a placement, a position, a posture before God. Stones wait for the architect to place it. Stones are able to say, wherever do you want me, Lord, I am able to just let you do what you need to do. Architects tends to want to direct things, to make things happen. So the invitation is that if we are going to be this spiritual house, we are to come from the place of being stones. Now, if you've ever seen a stonemason work building a wall or building a house, tons of it in Brazil, one of the things you begin to realize is that not all the stones fit properly. So one of the things they got to do, they got to chisel some edges out. They got to break some of the things to be able to fit that, so all the stones together form a house or a wall. In the same way, perhaps some of the things that God is inviting us to do is also telling us, look, it's great you're here, but I got to chisel some pieces off you. There are some things here that just don't fit. There are some things that you got to give up so others can fit together with you, and together you build this spiritual house. So we begin to operate as one. So it's thinking differently. Thinking very differently about who we are. We surrender things to be able to allow for God to build what he wants. There's this amazing story from the United States where there's this huge rock face called El Capitan. You guys probably already heard about the story, but El Capitan is it's a place where it's a rock face where people want to climb and to beat each other's records, and they would climb this rock in teams, and and they went from 15 days to 10 days, and I think the greatest teams would make it into 4 days, until this one young American man decided, I'm going to try it, but I'm going to do it differently. I'm going to think differently. So he left behind the food and the backpacks and the ropes and all of the stuff, and he went up that rock wall, and he did it in less than 4 hours. He had to think very differently to be able to accomplish that. Just take a look at this video we have set up. Just take a look at this video for a second.
Finally tonight here, America Strong, the young climber who made it to the top of El Capitan. No harness, no ropes attached, but a mind set on it since he was a boy. The famed El Capitan, a 3,000-foot wall of granite in Yosemite, nearly impossible to scale with safety equipment, let alone with none. It's called free soloing, and 31-year-old Alex Honnold of Sacramento has been perfecting the ropeless climb for a decade. Look at this breathtaking moment, about to reach the 2,500-foot summit of El Toro in Mexico. You can see he uses only his bare hands and feet to ascend. Alex has been climbing all his life. What he told us 2 years ago.
I go through the same calculation that anybody else does with risk taking. Is it worth taking this risk? And I'm like, yes, it is.
More than 60 practice climbs on El Capitan. And Alex told us today what he was thinking as he neared the top.
When you're free soloing something like El Cap, it's not as if your mind is wandering.
He gave us some of the video he took himself on previous climbs. Look at the drop below.
Yeah, let's see what happens.
The 2,500-foot drop below you keeps you pretty focused. I looked down, from time to time, enjoy the view. I was mostly looking up. I was pretty excited, and I was charging pretty quickly, and I was just kind of climbing ahead.
And in 3 hours, 56 minutes, he had made it to the top, becoming the first person to scale El Capitan alone without ropes or safety gear. And what did his mother say?
She said that she was glad I hadn't told her anything beforehand.
The historic climb, filmed by National Geographic Documentary Films.
With free soloing, honestly, I've never really dreamt of anything bigger. I can't imagine anything cooler than El Caps. I don't know if there's anything better.
Which explains the smile after this American climber reached the top.
That was the key there. You don't tell your mom until after. Thanks for watching here. I'm David Muir. I hope to see you right back here tomorrow. Until then.
So what if God is calling us to think differently? To put aside what we think is the right thing to do. The equipment that we think it keeps us safe. The things that guard us and it keep us. What if God is asking and inviting us to surrender all of that and say, what if you were to think differently? Would you be able to climb? What if we thought as one? Instead of saying we are just a team, we're together. What if we begin to realize we are actually one? What difference would that make for the kingdom of God if we truly embraced that concept? So, this is the invitation. As I see what God is building around us, building us into the spiritual house, that we begin to think a little bit different. But as you look further into this, Peter says to us that we are called to be not just stones, but to be living stones. And in other words, there ought to be life in these stones. And I think that this refers to the presence of the Spirit of God, that there is this life within us that it generates energy, that generates excitement, that we are feeling the presence of God in a certain way that energizes us for His service. There ought to be life in these stones. A lot of times, we as people of God look a lot more like a funeral procession than a wedding ceremony. But what if we were allow the presence and the power and of the living Spirit of God to energize us? There ought to be life in these stones. And last but not least, we are being built into a spiritual house. We are not living stones that are used for lawn ornaments, alone, put aside, just left there because we look good. No, we are being built into purpose. What is the purpose that God is calling us? Can we surrender to that? Can we say, yes, God, yes to you, yes to what you're building, yes to your Spirit, and yes to thinking differently? May God bless you.